than just like making a post.
All right, and there we are live. Hello, everyone. I'm Trevor. This is Tomas. We are part of Raise2Launch, the fractional C-suite supergroup that helps your startup raise and launch overseas into the United States. Uh, we're here today talking about, actually, funny enough, raising and launching, how to take your startups and help it get funded. Because right now, you and I were talking right before the recording. This is a crap market to raise it. I was just talking to a startup earlier today that pre product, pre revenue, pre anything wanted a $10 million pre seed, which is just that's a hard no in this market. Um, we were talking to somebody else earlier today, you and I both, who uh, in the midst of executing a pivot is now back to pre-product and trying to raise a bridge and just having no luck because no one wants to take up somebody who's got no revenue, right? It's a hard knock life right now out there, but there are still ways to get funded. One, of course, is just to make enough money where you self-fund, but that's the hardest way probably to roll your own. Um, Today, I want to talk about government grants, loans, organizational grant loans, NGOs, this kind of thing, and how your startup can succeed making use of those. I've got a couple of examples I can give for Canada, where I reside nowadays, and also back from Europe, where I used to live there. But tell me a bit, Thomas, in your experience, in your opinion, right? What are you seeing working to help startups with NGOs and just straight up non-dilutive fundraising? What's working right now?
Yeah, thanks for asking because it's correct. The regular way of how to do fundraising doesn't really work the same way as it used to. So government grants are often out there. Every ecosystem is different. I don't think too many startups are looking around locally. So in Poland, Polish price, I think in Hong Kong, there's another $100,000 I think given to startup owners. I think what the big thing is here, the learning curve, is that a startup does not give up equity to get these grants. All they need to do is establish the legal entity there, so that they basically it's a boost of a local boost, economic boost, and take advantage of that. Usually these are 50, 80,000 or $100,000 level of money, which may require a little bit of application, maybe going through like a small incubator program or something in that country, or obviously needing a co-founder from that country. But the rest can be done remotely, and this is very important to start that way. So that's what I wanted to say. If you're out there looking for funding and you realize that your investors are just having conversations and taking your time and you're not getting the check, then maybe it's time to step up and do this on your own a little bit more. And there are a lot of government grants out there. Also, there are a lot of incubators. I've seen a few lately that pays at the end of the incubator program 50K, 100K, and or even more. So maybe that's a little bit harder to get accepted to, but versus looking at it, especially if the program is good. And I just feel obligated to say that there was a incubator program that promised to give money at the end, or introductions to investors, and they were even promising if the investment does not happen, they refund the money of the incubator program. Very nice catch. They ended up going bankrupt. Maybe I can say their name, New Chip. I was surprised. One of
I've
my
heard of it.
clients
Yep.
went there, and then I was keep hearing back that this happened, and this happened here in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I was like, how sad that even a startup owner at an early stage, you need to kind of watch what you're spending, because even the couple of $1,000 you may end up getting the wrong service. So do a little bit of uh, due diligence, ask around about an incubator, talk to someone who actually graduated from there, maybe before you choose an incubator. But obviously, the government grants are you don't really need to, you don't really need to do any due diligence to that. It's either there and you fill it out and then you get the money, or not. But with the incubator programs, you may want to look around, because there's many promoting money at the end.
So there are definitely one I will point out. I mean, most of my audience is in the U.S. I don't know about you, Tomas, but if you're in the U.S., there's a couple of places you want to check out. EDA.gov, the Economic Development Administration. They have a list of basically all kinds of investments and grants that they have available. There is, of course, SBA loans. Most folks know those. There's also grants.gov, where they will list by department, right? The kind of grants you can get. So something like, hey, maybe you've got, I don't know, Department of Homeland Security has grants for science and technology, right? So you can go see they have hundreds of grants that range from uh, maybe 50,000 up from there if you've got the right sort of technology that they would benefit from it, right? Any of these big government programs, uh, that's tremendously to your benefit. There is also, you can go find at your given state government, whatever state you may be in, there will be some level of grants available and more frequently loans available for economic development where you're able to say, hey, I've got to do some paperwork, right? And that's why most founders don't take advantage of this, right? If you're a startup founder, rarely did you get into business because you love to do taxes, because you love to fill out loan applications, because that's what gets you up and excited in the morning. But there's frequently 50,000, 100, 200, $500,000 loans you can get with quite modest capital. You can put down 20K, got a couple months of history that your business is legit, and away you go. And it's non-dilutive, which is a big thing, right? Most every VC now, if you've got, I don't know, 30K, 50K in MRR, they are suddenly willing to write you checks. But if you're coming to them right now with zero MRR and you say, hey, this idea will work, I just need 300K to get my MVP up off the ground, and then I'll need 2 million to go get my go to market, and then I'll need, right, as you go up that way, you'll discover you're at a Series A and you've already got 3 rounds of investment. You've already given away almost 40% of your company before you're at a Series A. Like, that's no way to grow a business, man. So getting non-dilutive equity, of course, if you're lucky enough that you could do a friends and family round that's substantial, that's always the easiest, air quotes. I always felt really awkward trying to do a friends and family round because most startups fail. What if yours does? You've just lost your friends and family's money, right? I was never someone who would take that because the off chance that I would lose the money, right? Self fund instead is always my preference. Self fund, get some SBA loans, get some economic development loans, and grow from there. Um, so that's in the U.S. In Canada, there's a couple also I know of. You can go to uh, there's a tool called the Business Benefits Finder in Canada. Search for it. The URL is stupidly long because all the government URLs are stupidly long. It has 200 different loans and grants you can see if you're applicable for. And like broadly speaking, in Canada here, there's so in Quebec where I'm based, there's Launch Quebec, which will write checks up to like 100K. There's there's the PME MTL like loans up to 300K. There's their general Canadian small business financing program up to 1 million. Like you can put together through enough of these, a couple for 150K each, a loan or two for 200, 300K each. You can get your way to $1 million. But I would note these days, if you're hiring in the Valley, or if you're hiring in New York, or if you're hiring in Austin, even 1 million won't get you very far. What do you do to help stretch that dollar if you have to raise on a tighter market these days?
Well, you just hire cheaper globally, right? That's like the rule number one. Like, look at the remote workforce. Don't think it's a compromise. You might be surprised that they actually outperform your expectation if you do a good job finding the right people. But just to go back to one more thing, in Silicon Valley, I don't see the transactions. A lot of conversations happens around money. The transactions are not happening. And I spoke with somebody who has a platform making a match for startup owners and investors, and I was asking like, what's a typical amount of meetings until they have term sheets? And he was like flat out 50 meetings to start to get to term sheets. I don't know. I would never really.
Wait,
Yeah,
50 meetings with one investor? Like I have to go back to the same guy 50 times?
not the same.
Okay,
50 investor
in general.
meetings
Okay.
until you have a term sheet. And I was like, not with the same guys, probably three, four, I would say.
I
The
mean,
same
50 doesn't
guys.
sound that bad to me, but
But I was asking why is it so many, and they were saying that the investors are only looking at unicorns. So if your startup still a good startup, but not a unicorn kind, then you're wasting your energy. That's what I'm saying. You're not gonna get funding from an investor anyway. So you might be start thinking of how you can you do this on your own. And um, regulated crowdfunding way to go if you have overlap between your investor persona and family investors, small investors, and also it overlaps with your client market. So, and of course, especially if your startup has a meaning for people, society, and so on, and it's emotional, then people will actually you need to just open the door and let people pay you. Um, so that's, I think, a really big step, but you do need a little bit of traction. So we're back to chicken egg problem. How can you get your initial traction? Is these government loans where you're not giving up equity, maybe at an incubator, and but chasing an investor saying that you need X amount of millions is not in this market. It's not happening.
yeah. I do think if you're smart, so a lot of startups they used to the wisdom used to be, I think it still is when you go the VC route, right? You've got to be full time on your startup or else you won't get a check. You have to be full time before you ask for money or you won't get a check. I think these days it is better practice if you can to be fractional on your startup, get some initial traction, right? Build something with no code tools. You can build so many things in MVP fashion so quickly. And with a team of good people you've assembled globally, you can find really good people still for 2K a month, 1,700 a month if you're hiring globally, and get the same talent that you'd pay 10 to 15K for in California. And no compromise on quality of English, quality of work, passion, drive, like any of these things. You'll find remarkable candidates. And with a team like that, if you're working, if you can keep your lifestyle bloat under control, take the money you're earning above your cost of living, put that into building this team, get just enough, raise, you know, get a modest 80K loan. You could do a lot with 80K in 3 or 4 months. And then, particularly if you're covering all your own costs, that 80K could go a real long way with a team that your team all in cost you 5K a month, 6K a month to help build and run this and make it go. You've got a year of runway with an 80K loan that I know interest rates are high, but you're still going to be what, 400 a month, 500 a month to service the loan? Like you could do a lot, make that work. And then pretty easily get your SaaS business to where it's already servicing the loan, right? If your SaaS business is servicing your loan, starting to reach end of your term of loan, go back for another loan. You've been paying it off reliably for 2 years. They're going to give you another loan, right? You can keep using this to move your way forward. We do have to be scrappier, I think, in this market. But I do also think in some ways this is better because founders with good ideas that aren't rocket ships, investors aren't betting on them anymore. Investors used to say, hey, maybe it's a unicorn, let's go. Now they're not willing to. And honestly, most startups don't need to be unicorns, right? Most startups would do really well to do 5 million a year with a 10-person team, right? That would be phenomenal. Most founders would be super happy to own a business doing 5 million a year with a 10-person team. Like why don't we try to make more of those happen and less Metas and less TikToks and less Teslas, right? Build that awesome 5 million annual business instead. Scrap your way up, make it work. I think there's still a lot of opportunity. It's just you have to hunt around and find the right way to make it happen.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I spoke with somebody who had a successful exit 10 years ago, and I was asking him like, "Hey, are you like well off because of that?" And he was smiling and said, like, "Who told you that? Like, if you have actually, if you want to have a, if you want to get rich and you think that you're doing startup because you want to get rich, that's not the way to go. You do a startup because you want to solve a problem and you want to execute and you want to kind of not work for someone. You want to have the freedom of maneuvering your company, but don't get into it as that. Oh, I'm just gonna get rich once I get an investor. That's where your problems begin. So
Yeah.
that investor wants to have a person on your board, tell you what to do, and things like that. And exactly as at the beginning of the stream, Trevor mentioned, your startup is no longer yours anymore, and you're not in control of what direction you're going. So,
Yeah.
so that's why we are emphasizing of getting it either bootstrap, getting a grant, getting a loan. Look for alternative ways. Once you have revenue, things are easier. Then regulated crowdfunding. Still not looking at investors and VCs. The moment you have money coming in from regulated crowdfunding, I think that's the first time an investor would be start looking at you seriously. Like, oh, do I want to jump on board or not? Because the boat is leaving the port. So I think um, the best advice we can really give is don't think that you can raise money without money. Like, you need to have
Yeah.
money, add some revenue, have some revenue, or even have some money to raise money. And that's new in this market, and I don't think startups are willing to swallow that pill for some reason, because there's still some people are in
I think a lot of founders still don't really understand how that market has changed. By the way, is that your dog who's losing its mind in the background here?
well, it's actually on the other side, in a couple of houses away, not mine.
Okay.
I have cats. But
Fair enough.
yeah, good question. If I would have a bigger garden, I may have a dog too. But that's another
No,
stream, another topic for another stream.
no worries. Just if it was your dog, I was going to be like, go see who's robbing your house. Okay. Uh, so yeah, I think the founders don't appreciate how much the market has shifted right now. I also feel like so many founders don't appreciate how much faster it is to build than even a year ago. Like
Yeah, it's
there's
definitely
very
speeding
little.
up. Definitely speeding up a lot faster. So maybe the how to build your team remotely was a little bit more, a few more minutes, because people may just think that, okay, where do I find candidates? How does it work? I put a job post on LinkedIn, then I don't really get the right candidates, or I get 100 applicants, don't know what to do with it. So I think these are the things why maybe you want to reach out to us. We can give you a little bit of strategy, or reach out to me, and give you a little bit of strategy how to approach to a location. Maybe on a two sentence on this. Look at where you're going to have your clients. Maybe we're going to have partners. Which country maybe going to become maybe a supplier or a vendor or something. So once you have something more in that country, then you know that that country will have people from anyway, to either service that country or have additional involvement. So don't just pick a country based on cost and time zone. The secondary would be obviously time zone and cost, but first, if you're a business practice, and then I often said, if you find a local partner who knows which job portal to advertise, how to utilize networks and people that may have experience in the area where you're looking for how to hire, is always a better way to go. Try to do this on your own, without knowing anything about the market. Try to tackle it. It's a little bit harder. So get a local expert on your side, and um, in the sales side is always still true until today. You have field sales, inside sales. So having one person on the foot on the ground, and then someone else helping remotely is always a good combo. So and that salesperson can really sit anywhere as long as they understand the market. On when it comes to your customer service area, I think it's the time zone. So it's the convenience of servicing your clients. And of course, with your engineering team, you basically just want to make sure the culture fit is there, so they can get along very well remotely. And I would say have it in two time zone, maybe faster
Yeah,
than one time zone. So those are just the two cents on this.
definitely. There's a like crowd tamers is fully remote, always has been. I don't want to have an office to go into. I hate commuting, but um, a big part of making remote first culture work is being documentation heavy. And a lot of founders who are like, oh, you can't, you just don't get the same team capacity to solve problems in a remote only company. It's because they haven't documented what they're doing well, right? Once you write down what you're doing, everybody knows what should be done. And then people will just go do stuff. If something goes wrong, man, they'll tackle it. If you have good people, they'll just go solve problems to the best of their ability when something goes wrong. And I mean, if your team isn't doing that, you've hired the wrong people for remote work. I don't think everybody is suitable for remote work, right? You have to be willing to work without someone watching you. Some folks can't do that, but if you find the folks who can, you can find tremendously good people. I mean, I was just talking to a buddy of mine at lunch today, and they do nearshore recruiting for developers. And like the Argentinian peso is basically falling off a cliff, just been dropping for the last 4 years.
Really, the
It was
Mexican peso is getting stronger against the
it
dollar.
is, but the Argentinian Argentina was the second largest economy in South America. They used to be, and they still are in some ways, a big economic driver. But with the Argentinian peso dropping basically without relief for 4 years, and then it took a nosedive a couple weeks ago. You hire people, you pay them in U.S. dollars right now. They are extremely happy to work at quite reasonable rates. Argentina, that's as near shore as it gets. It's the same time zone as most of the East Coast, right? Like, so it can be really good people to bring on board, and uh, can be really affordable, and people are extremely happy to get hired in North America because the currencies here are a bit more dependable than the ones in, and not just Argentina. It's just I was talking to my buddy about that recently. Um, like, go find good people, right? That stretches your dollar. Document. That means your team can do their job. Uh, Raise your first 50K, 100K, 200K, non-dilutive, right? You'll find all those investors who weren't willing to talk to you when you were at zero revenue will pick up the phone when you're at 50K MRR. And they will say, oh, how interesting. We knew you'd do great. We'd love to come and talk about a check, right? Because these people, angel investors, VCs, whatever, they want to see the signs of success before they write a check. They used to be willing to look for signs of success in the team. In certain very rare cases, I'm still seeing teams raise big, but that's teams with just incredible like backgrounds. And then they're not even like they're selling just the team members and folks are writing a check for that team member. Most founders don't have the kind of background that someone says, I don't know what you're building, but here's $1 million. I believe you'll succeed. That's pretty rare. If you're one of those founders, quit listening to us. Go get $1 million.
Thank you,
All right.
Trevor. I like your to the point honesty.
Excellent. Glad to be able to get back into this, Tomas. I've been sick for a couple of weeks now. It's nice to be able to get a live stream in again. Next time, I think we might talk about, because you just got back from SaaStr. I've been at Startup Fest. Didn't go to Collision this year, but uh, been going in-person events as well myself. I think although we're on a fundraising kick, as a corollary to, I think next time we talk, we'll talk about in-person networking, like it's the cavemen's eras, back when we used to meet people and breathe their air.
Yeah, I look forward to that. And thank you for watching this. Feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn if you have any questions or you need tips. And thanks to Trevor for doing these streams. I always have fun here.
Yeah, thanks everybody. This has been Raise to Launch podcast. This is episode number 6, I think, or 5 we've done. We are, as I mentioned, a fractional C-suite supergroup. We help your startup launch and raise in the United States. If you have any questions about any of that, hit up Thomas or me. We'll be happy to talk. Thanks.
Bye bye. Cheers.
Cheers.